In 1849, against the objections of many people who thought a woman doctor was immoral, Elizabeth Blackwell became the first woman to obtain a medical degree in the United States. Her work broke the gender barrier in the medical profession and opened the field to other women by founding multiple medical schools and hospitals for females. The medical history of hospitals goes back to 1751, yet nearly 100 years later, there is no mention of any female medical doctors or physicians with medical degrees until 1849. Most of the medical jobs available to women were either midwives or nurses. Obtaining an education was only one of the many barriers facing medical women in the 19th century. According to John B. Blake, some of the only careers open to an educated woman were writing and teaching. As school boards found out they could hire women for one half or less of the pay demanded by men, it dawned on them that women were the natural teachers because of their maternal instincts. Male prejudice then started to become more of a barrier. The first American medical school was established at the University of Pennsylvania in 1767 and began the tradition of barring women from a medical degree by rejecting all female medical applicants. Elizabeth Blackwell moved to the United States with her family in 1832. A few years later, her father died, leaving his widow and 9 children unprovided for. Elizabeth was 17 years old at the time. She and her 2 older sisters opened a boarding school and supported the family for a few years while managing to provide education for the younger children. 4 years after their father's death, the school was given up, but Elizabeth continued to teach. A friend who was suffering from uterine cancer said to Elizabeth, "You have health and leisure. Why not study medicine? If I could have been treated by a lady, my worst sufferings would have been saved me." These were the words that motivated her to become a doctor. To raise enough money for medical school tuition, in the unlikely event that she would be accepted, Elizabeth took teaching jobs, first in Asheville, North Carolina, then in Charleston, South Carolina. In the latter city, she boarded at the home of Dr. Sam Dixon, who was sympathetic enough to let her spend every available hour in his medical library, and even gave her some elementary instruction. Physicians in Philadelphia and New York, whose advice Elizabeth sought, were uniformly discouraging. A woman had never been admitted to medical school. The time was not right. She could only succeed disguised as a man. By early summer of 1847, she had enough money and enough self-acquired knowledge to move on to the next step, which was applying for entrance to medical school. After failing to gain admission to any of the established medical schools, she sent letters off to 12 country schools located in rural sections of the northern states in 1847. Many of the colleges she sent letters to rejected her and said, "You cannot expect us to furnish you with a stick to break our heads with." Only 2 out of the 12 colleges she sent letters to accepted her: Geneva Medical College in western New York and the equally undistinguished Castleton Medical College in Vermont. Elizabeth decided to go to Geneva because they offered a little more than its willingness to accept a female student. The college's faculty was unwilling to make the decision and allowed the all-male student body to vote on Blackwell's admission, assuming they would never let a woman into their ranks. As a joke, the student body unanimously voted yes. She was finally accepted as a medical student, making her the first female medical student in the US. Blackwell eventually earned the respect of her professors and classmates when she graduated at the top of her class in 1849. In his graduation address to the 1849 medical class, Charles Lee, Dean of Geneva Medical College, referred to the extraordinary event of the day and declared his wholehearted admiration for the first female MD. However, when he had the graduation address printed, he added a footnote stating that though he supported medical education for qualified women, the inconveniences attending the admission of females to all the lectures in a medical school are so great that he will feel compelled on all future occasions to oppose such practice. Most reactions were neutral or positive, if mildly condescending, but a letter in the Boston Medical and Surgical Journal of February 21, 1849, roundly condemned the farce enacted at Geneva Medical College. The writer concluded, "As this is the first case of the kind that has been perpetrated in either Europe or America, I hope, for the honor of humanity, that it will be the last," and called upon the medical profession to teach other similar institutions the impropriety of following the example. Upon her graduation, she traveled to England, where she studied in hospitals in Birmingham and London. She then moved to Paris, France, where she was forced to enroll as a student midwife in order to practice at a hospital. While there, she contracted pink eye, which eventually caused her to lose sight in one eye. Because of this loss, she was unable to pursue her dream of becoming a surgeon. Elizabeth and her sister Emily, who also became a doctor, along with one of Blackwell's colleagues, Dr. Marie Zakrzewska, decided to establish a medical clinic. They also founded multiple schools in Boston and Philadelphia, as well as some women's medical colleges, like the New York Women's Medical College, established in 1863, and the Women's Medical College of the New York Infirmary for Women and Children, founded in 1868. Undiscouraged by the disapproving people, they rented a house in Bleecker Street for the infirmary and opened up 2 tiny wards. Instantly, the hospital was overcrowded, and it began its long career in education and service. The aim of this institution was not only to provide medical care for the poor, but to provide medical training for female students and positions for female physicians. In 1927, it treated 32,000 cases in the dispensary and over 2,500 in the hospital, of which one half were entirely free patients. The Infirmary for Women and Children is now the New York Downtown Hospital. They also founded the Women's Medical College of Chicago 2 years later. During the 2 decades following Elizabeth Blackwell's graduation from Geneva, a woman's best chance for admission to medical school was that one restricted to female students. Because she opened all of the medical colleges specifically for females, which provided them with medical knowledge and practice, Elizabeth caused a massive increase in the number of women in the medical field. Having an environment where women could study without the stigma of being female or the harassment from male physicians would have provided a safe environment for study. In 1870, there were 527 women physicians and surgeons in the United States. The number increased to 2,432 in 1880, 4,557 in 1890, 7,387 in 1900, and as of 1910, it must be largely over 10,000. Blackwell went back to England in 1869 with the exception of a visit to the United States in 1906 for the remainder of her life. There, she continued her efforts to expand medical opportunities for women, which she started on a visit in 1859 when she became the first woman to be listed in the Medical Register of the United Kingdom. She founded the National Health Society in 1871, which aimed to educate people about the benefits of hygiene and healthy lifestyles. Their motto, "Prevention is better than cure," is a phrase that still rings true and is regularly used by medical professionals and the general public. In 1874, Blackwell became active in the successful movement led by a former New York student, Sophie Jex Blake, to open the first female medical school for women in the United Kingdom, the London School of Medicine for Women. By 1895, women made up at least 10% of the enrollment in 18 regular medical schools that used to be restricted to men across the country. Elizabeth Blackwell did not actively practice medicine during the last 2 decades of her life, but she remained a tireless worker for these causes. By 1975, the number of first-year female medical students was 3,647, up from 504 in 1959. As of 1977, one of the most dramatic examples of the changes of the past few years can be found in Blackwell's profession, where the number of female students entering medical schools in the United States has increased by 700% since the fall of 1959. Blackwell's role in breaking the gender barrier in medical school, opening the New York Infirmary, and establishing the Women's Medical College did much to undermine that men were monopolizing nearly all of the profitable employments, all the while opening doors for other women in the medical profession. She broke through many barriers to gain recognition and eventual fame in her profession, and was a founder of women's hospitals and medical colleges in both the United States and England. Today, women account for around 49% of medical students in the U.S., an achievement that we have met with Dr. Blackwell's determination to defeat gender inequality in medicine. Breaking the gender barrier in the medical field has helped many people. Elizabeth Blackwell's contribution to creating a safe place for women to practice medicine has changed the world for the better.